great, I love it. It's beautiful. Let's read it because I want to talk to you about it. And she started crying. A tear at the beauty of the Fox book. My Adventures in Wonderland, Wednesday, 25th of June, 2003. Where? A buttercup meadow. When? A boiling summer's day. What? I see a kitten, and I follow it into a hollow tree and down a passageway. This is one of those things where you had to like write where, what, when, who, and that was your story. Yeah, it's formulaic, but fine. Who? Me, a mad kitten, a tree spirit, and a talking gravestone. So, recently I found this book, which, if you can't read it, says Zoe, Literacy, Year 4, 02 to 03. So this is my English book from when I was aged 8 to 9, and I enjoyed reading it. It had some classic stuff in it, and I just thought I would share with you my personal journey as a writer and just show that genius is really something you're born with. First, I'm going to go to some literary analysis. Now, this is something that I hated in school. I loved reading books. I'd only really started liking reading when I was 7, and so it was a very new thing. I just wanted to read books, and the teachers were like, you have to analyse them, you have to use full sentences, and you have to put capital letters and full stop. And I just didn't get it. I didn't want to do it. If anyone had ever told me that I was going to end up doing a degree in English, I would have just been like, why? That's stupid. English is stupid. Because I didn't see the point of analysing it. It's like, you like something. Why? Why do you like it? I don't know why I like it! Sorry, I have some feelings about schooling. So anyway, today on the 24th of February 2003, so I was almost 9, we were analysing a few songs. One was Sea Fever by John Masefield, and the other one was Shakespeare's Full Fathom 5, which is in The Tempest. The kind of ship John Masefield is thinking of is a tall ship, and the words that tell you are, all I ask is a tall ship. Then, my favourite lines. The question was obviously, what is your favourite line in the poems? In the poem Full Fathom 5, my favourite line was, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Because it sounds like he's suffering, but then it sounds different, like he's not suffering, but it's good, it's rich. Yeah, you tell him. That's deep. And then my favourite line in Sea Fever was, I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, because, wait for it, I don't understand it. This is what I love about children, is they tell the truth, and that really was why I liked the line. I still like things because I don't understand them. I'm like, wow, that sounds great. I don't know what it means, but I love the sound of it. And that is a big part of poetry. Sometimes you don't need to understand what a word means in order to find it beautiful. Although it is good to look up words before you tell people it's your favourite word, because it might be something horrible. To give you a taster of my immense storytelling ability, I found the first entry, see my handwriting there, first entry in this book, Thursday, 5th of September 2002, Zoe aged 8 and almost 3/4. It's entitled Cornwall, and it's obviously one of those things where you get back from the summer holidays and they're like, ooh, write about your holiday. And I loved this because I loved anything where you got to write. The weird thing is, I was good at writing at this point, but I was more good at like descriptions, and I wrote a lot of poetry. You will see my poetry in a moment. It is amazing. But I wasn't good at writing stories. I could never finish anything. And I never knew why. Like everyone else, all the people who didn't really like English could still come out of a class with a finished story. What I didn't realise was actually probably what they did was go, oh, I hate this. I went on holiday, had some fun, that was it. Whereas I thought if it was real life, you had to say everything. So, be prepared. Cornwall. We finally reached a parking place. We had directions to the shack, but we didn't know where they were. We looked about for a bit. Then we found a path that we thought led down to the beach. We walked down the steep path for a bit. After a while, some houses and a cafe. We went down a few steps leading to the row of houses. When we got to the bottom of the steps, we started to walk down the hill. Are you riveted? Like I am. Then, on the steep bit, we saw a big dog. It chased me. I was terrified, but then I remembered I was carrying my surfboard. We started up the hill again. We started to pass the last house in the row again, except that it was the first instead, because we were going uphill. We saw some people. And this is like the first half hour of the holiday, and I never finished it. I got a star for it though, so I don't think the teachers cared very much. Like today, I liked rhyming poems, so got some of my animal poetry. First one is called Crab. Crab, walking sideways. Crab, claws pincer sharp. Crab, tied towards him. Crab, slides right in. Crab, pinches fishes. Crab, shells silver dishes. Crab, nets come on him. Crab is dinner. I knew the facts of life back then. Kestrels. So I grew up in the countryside in rural Herefordshire, and there were basically all these animals there. Like there were kestrels swooping over the fields all the time because it was really deep in farmland. And in autumn, when the tractors came round and they rolled all the hay into hay bales, one thing we would do, we did run through the fields of wheat, and the farmers did get angry. It's a true fact. But we would roll the hay bales. We would go in, like 3 of us tiny children, and push these hay bales so they rolled down the hill, which is actually quite dangerous because there were roads at the bottom of the hill, but no one ever got hurt. And anyway, at that time, I guess maybe because all the hay coming up, or all the hay being cut, meant that a lot of animals got displaced, like mice and shrews and that kind of thing. And so the kestrel, you'd see kestrels hovering over the fields, and they'd dive into the field and come up with something. And they were just really amazing to watch, and they'd have that high-pitched shriek. They were just so beautiful. So this is kestrels. Kestrel, kestrel, curving delicately through the skies. The bird of prey, the kestrel, flies. Having no need to eat wiggly worms, in its jaws a little mouse squirms. Kestrel, kestrel, diving swift, from the ground a little mouse, a little mouse, it does lift. Kestrel, kestrel, in the skies makes a curve, sees an obstacle, how the kestrel does swerve. Kestrel, kestrel, uses the trees as its secret loom. Bang, boom, the thunder cracks. The kestrel is coming, the kestrel is coming, weaving its spell of prey through the I'd like to point out that in The Little Mouse Squirms, after wiggly worms, I've spelled squirms like to look like it rhymes with worms, so it's SQUWORMS, which I really like. I like that spelling, and it makes more sense. Here's the next one. Buzzards, still on the birds of prey. Two buzzards chasing, going in circles, round and round. Chasing, looks like they're racing, round and round. Circling high, swooping low, never on the ground, while the little mice run around. It's not fair you eat us mice. The buzzard gobbled him up in a trice. Buzzard bite, buzzard fight, buzzard coming through the night. Buzzard circle, buzzard dive, buzzard quickly take alive. That actually doesn't scan that badly. I'm quite impressed 8-year-old me, to be honest. This one is my absolute favourite. I just like, oh, the little mouse comes back. Each one of these has a little mouse. So, this one, I've gone a little bit further than just calling it the name of the animal. It's not called snake, it's called slithery snake. I've got an adjective in there, which I would later learn is not, you're not meant to do. Not meant to use adjectives, are you, in writing? No. But as a child, I thought they were great, and so did my teachers. And I still think they're great. I like adjectives. Slithery snake, hiding in the bushes. Little mouse, out he rushes. Grass snake slither, glider snake glide. New skin smooth, old skin wither. Slithery snake, eating animals. Likes mice, doesn't like mammals. Goes through the grass like a slice. Slithery snake, hiss hiss, has no need for a wish. Eating voles, eating moles, poking his head down little holes. Grass snake slither, glider snake glide. New skin smooth, old skin wither. I actually really like that one. I think it's cute. And that was, I did say that was my favourite. That's my favourite animal poem, but actually this one I just feel encapsulates both my passions then and now, and just my absolute love of rhyme. And like at this point I did read a fair amount of poetry for an 8-year-old, I'd say, but a lot of the poetry that you're given as a child does rhyme, and you don't really learn till later that you can write stuff that doesn't really distinctly rhyme, like with a distinct rhyme pattern. And I quite like the fact that I did just write this stuff that didn't make any sense. I was like, has to rhyme, so I'm gonna put this word in, and it came up with this. It's called food. I'm like, same. Mushy peas and macaroni, honeybees and raisins only, yummy jam and chops of pork, gammon ham eaten with a fork, juicy apples and ripe berries, sunlight dappled bright red cherries, fat plump chickens and roast turkeys are what I like to eat, Brunswick ham and honey roast, and most of other meat. Had not gone vegetarian at this point. This is the point in the story where you usually write, I was rooted to the spot with terror. But you need time to be frightened, and I didn't have time. Nor can you be rooted to the spot when you're riding a bicycle. ... And it was never continued. I don't know what I was thinking. What was going to happen? She's riding a bicycle, she has no time to be scared, but something's happening, and it's just, what an opening. And we never know. We will never know what this 9-year-old was thinking. And it's a tragedy. When Foxes Are Thousand by Larissa Lai. This is a book that I got for Christmas. I really need to get better at like succinctly saying why I like books. This is kind of why I'm doing this, because I'm bad at it. So it's a book by a Chinese-Canadian author who draws on the folktale of the fox spirit that can turn into a woman, and it has 3 different viewpoints. One is a fox and it goes through her whole 1,000-year life. One is a poet, I think she's a 5th century poet in China who has a very crazy life, and eventually the fox takes over her body when she dies. And the other viewpoint is a 20th century woman in 1989 Canada, and it's kind of the people she meets and how her life slowly just disintegrates as the fox that has emigrated from China to Canada starts haunting her. And it's just so beautifully written. It's one of those books that I read it and I just had to go right back to the beginning and read it again, because the prose was haunting. And it really kind of encapsulates what I was saying about liking stuff because you didn't understand it. There was just so much that I didn't get on my first reading of the book, and still didn't get on the second reading, because she'd say things like there'd be 2 characters talking and then one would start telling a story, and it would start the woman was wearing an orange dress and Artemis, the main character, is like, I thought you said the dress was red. But she just started telling the story, and you go back a few pages and you're like, she never said it was red. That never happened. And it just has this very shifting, dreamlike, surreal feeling to it that is just fabulous. And it's one of the few times I can actually close a book and go, wow, I have no idea what happened and I loved it. And this is a book that I will be keeping and rereading for a very long time. So that's When Foxes Are Thousand, a novel by Larissa Lai. It's her first novel, so I'm looking forward to seeing what else she wrote. Yeah, read it. It's I think it's out of print. You can't find it in like mainstream bookshops, but you can find it on places like Ape Books. So go there. Flamingo endorsed, of course.